now you read with like a pre-implanted interpretation, an interpretation that is not reasonably supported whatsoever by the actual message content or the email content or whatever the case may be. Like, for example, this is one of the most unbelievable ones. There's one that's going around now. People are saying that Epstein said, astaghfirullah, that the flesh of infants tastes like cream cheese. Okay? This completely demented thing that people are sharing is literally based on an email where Jeffrey Epstein is telling someone that he wants vegetable cream cheese. And they're supposed to try and get it for him. And he says that there are millions of babies, but very little good vegetable cream cheese. How do you go from that to cannibalism? I don't understand. How do you make that leap? The actual offensive thing that he's saying is that good vegetable cream cheese is more valuable than babies because of comparative scarcity. It's a sick joke, no more, no less. This is obvious. Okay, so where does this go? If people accept that twisted humor, sick jokes, poor taste, or what have you, like say Bill Burr, for example, talking about mass population extermination, or being tempted to drive his car into a crowd of people, when he's talking in his stand-up. In this type of humor in private correspondence, if we allow that to be counted now as evidence of actual crimes and proof of utterly heinous acts, for people that we have decided that they are bad people, and now we can go through people's emails, their text messages, and so on, and we can extrapolate criminality from messages that do not in any way whatsoever relate to any actual crimes. Okay, so where does that take you? How are you going to conduct yourself in your private correspondence now? Your private messages, your personal messages, your personal communications. No humor, no nuance, no casual or flippant remarks anymore between you and even your friends and colleagues and acquaintances. You can't say anything that could conceivably be susceptible to malicious misinterpretation at some point in the future, because that's where this goes. You might want to consider that. You might want to consider what you're spiraling into. Anything that you ever say to anyone has to be ironclad against being willfully misconstrued. No jokes of questionable taste, even with people that you're close to. No venting, no just letting off steam in an email to a friend. No dubious language at all. You have to write to your friends and write to your family and write to your acquaintances, fully anticipating how that's going to sound if it's read back to you in a deposition. Do you understand how destructive that's going to be, or how destructive that is to communication, to relationship building, to honesty, to trust? Like again, there's an email exchange between Epstein and an Emirati woman, a diplomat or something, where she was going to meet with him with another woman. Her and another woman were going to meet with him about something, and Epstein is asking if the two women can come earlier than scheduled. He asked the Emirati woman. She said something like, "Oh, you know how hard it is to get one girl ready. What about two?" Okay? Clearly referring to herself and to the other woman and making a joke about how long it takes girls to get ready. It's completely mundane. It's a completely mundane and innocuous joke. It's something that we've all heard in one form or another thousands of times before. But online, in the context of Epstein, no. Online, this becomes Emirati woman prepares minor girls for Epstein. I mean, are you serious? Are you actually serious? And see, I said that you're going to have to watch what you say in your private communications because it might end up in a trial or something, or in a deposition or what have you, or a trial by the court of public opinion. But you'll say, no, I don't have anything to worry about. I don't have to worry about that because I'm not a criminal. I'm not someone like Jeffrey Epstein. Sure, okay, fine. You're not someone like Jeffrey Epstein, but how do you know that your name isn't going to be connected to someone who is like that? How do you know that every single person that you ever interact with is completely on the up and up, especially in your society? Like this Emirati woman, okay? Do you know how many people a diplomat interacts with? How many people they correspond with? How many people they meet? A diplomat's whole career is socializing, is networking, is interacting. This is what she does. This is what diplomats do. What are you talking about? How do you think that this guilt by association that you people are conducting, how do you feel safe that it's not going to be applied to you? I mean, what if your family member, for example, what if your family member works for, I don't know, Boeing, working on complex aerospace systems, defense systems, and whatnot, deeply embedded in the military-industrial complex? Well, how many corrupt and immoral people do you think that they might have in their inbox that they correspond with on a regular basis? People who themselves might be connected to or who might be themselves just like Jeffrey Epstein, right? And your family member's name now maybe shows up in their emails and their messages back and forth between that person and your family member. Their messages back and forth get misconstrued, get misinterpreted. People think they're speaking in code or what have you. Oh, you went fishing? He went fishing with the VP of engineering, and that VP is in charge of a multi-billion-dollar project and what have you. And that VP was caught doing disgusting things or has disgusting things on his laptop. Fishing, eh? We all know what that means. You went fishing, huh? This is how it works. This is how smearing works. That's why it's called a smear, because it's not precise. It just spreads indiscriminately over everybody, everything. And like, again, with Epstein, in the case of that Emirati woman, that diplomat, okay, once you get them to acknowledge, these people who are doing the smearing, once you get them to acknowledge that message didn't say what they said that it was saying, then they'll jump to, well, she should not have been meeting him in the first place. So that's already suspect. That she shouldn't have been meeting him in the first place because he's a convicted sex offender. Okay, that happened in 2008, whatever, right? And the correspondence is after 2008. So there's no way she didn't know. There's no way at all that she couldn't have known that. Okay, first of all, it's obvious now that you're actually just on a campaign to smear and to defame people. Now you just want to come up with reasons to attack this woman, why it's okay for you to attack this woman. And it could be her or any number of other people that are being attacked. So that's first of all. First of all, your insistence on attacking, finding reasons to attack, discredits you. And your refusal to admit that you either misunderstood or deliberately misconstrued the original message, your refusal to admit that also discredits you. You're not a fair person. But okay, Epstein was convicted in like 2008 in Florida. And you imagine that everyone in the world, everyone internationally, is supposed to know about a Florida court decision. This is foolish. Did you know about it? Did you know about it in 2008, in 2010, 2013, 2018? Or did you even know about it at all before you watched an Epstein documentary after the man was dead? Why would you imagine that anyone globally would know that? Why do you think anyone would know that? The records of sex offenders didn't show up at border control until after 2016. It is actually entirely possible that people outside the United States, even people inside the United States, but certainly people globally, it is entirely possible that people did not know about his conviction. That's completely believable. What they knew is that he's a billionaire. He's a billionaire, he's a financier, he's an investor, he's a donor. He's someone with a lot of contacts. He's someone with a lot of significant other people who vouch for him. That's what most people would know about him. You tell us to deal with this guy. Okay, it's your guy. We'll deal with him. And in the UAE, we know that he had a friendship with Sultan bin Sulaim, the head of DP World. So Sultan bin Sulaim would have vouched for him. So this woman was very unlikely to have gone beyond that in her checking back on Epstein. Epstein is not the first or the last person that we deal with, that our people have to deal with, who's disgusting, who's criminal, who's immoral. Every United States president in my lifetime and before my lifetime was a mass murdering gangster. And we deal with them. I mean, you people say it yourselves. Epstein was involved with everybody, and everybody was involved with Epstein. Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson, on and on. And you say, according to your theory, they were all together doing unspeakable crimes along with him, right? So now no one is supposed to deal with a Bill Gates, no one's supposed to deal with a Elon Musk, a Bezos, Peter Thiel, Microsoft, Tesla, Amazon, and so on. Of course they're going to deal with them. Obviously they'll deal with them. It's not our fault that your elites and your billionaires are all degenerates. That's your problem. Your president is a convicted felon, right? I mean, come on. If we have to do a moral background check on all of your people, then I don't know if there would be anyone left to deal with. Let's be serious. Especially not according to our criteria, our Islamic criteria. I don't even know which one of you would be allowed into the country, frankly, if we did that. I mean, yes, think about it. America is going to start requiring you to hand over all your online data, your email, your messages, your posts, your pictures, your contacts, all of that, right? We've already talked about that. If you want to visit that country, you have to turn all that over. So how do you think that's going to go? If they already have a predisposition to think badly of you because of your race or because of where you come from or because of your religion or because of your politics, they're already going to be inclined to misconstrue anything that's in your messages. And then what if other countries do the same thing? And you can't enter into anyone's country unless you provide all of that. And then you have to prove that your personal moral code, as it's reflected in your private data, that reflects and aligns with the moral code of that country. How's that going to work out? That effectively would end your international travel. But you see, we already know that you're a certain kind of way. Muslims, we already know that you're a certain kind of way. We already know that you get up to all kinds of things. And we deal with you anyway. We're cordial with you anyway. We're friendly with you anyway. We're respectful to you anyway. And if it's literally your job to be cordial, to deal with people, to be friendly and so on, if it's literally your job to do that, then obviously that's what you're going to do. Right? I mean, think about it. But the way that you people are doing online, subhanAllah, just collective slandering, reputational collective punishment, it's grotesque. It's truly grotesque. But it's what I said earlier. Once you have determined that someone is bad or someone is guilty of this or that, then you can go ahead and feel free to assume that they're guilty of every other conceivable atrocity that you can imagine or think of. And anyone and everyone who is associated with them are all in on it together. You can do that. This is how you operate. And you don't care if you malign or if you slander or if you defame innocent people, decent people, because you're in a frenzy. And you have no idea how to discern or how to be judicious or how to be fair. And you don't even know what does or does not constitute evidence and so on. This is completely out of your wheelhouse. I mean, if you're paying attention, everything about this Epstein story, everything that's happening around this Epstein story just exemplifies everything that I've talked about with regards to Western so-called civilization and about American culture and about American society. And I'm not just talking about Epstein's crimes, not his own crimes themselves. That's not the only thing I'm talking about. Not just his debauchery, not just his perversion and so forth. And not just the apparent lack of any legal consequences for any of these things. And not just the absolute normality of Epstein's behavior among the rich and powerful in your society. I'm not just talking about that, no. Everything around this exemplifies it. The mania, the frenzy, the complete inability to be rational, to be reasoning, to be fair, to be honest. The complete inability to do those things. The histrionics, the smearing, the guilt by association, the scorched earth incriminations, and the absolutely bizarre and frankly disturbed direction of your collective imagination, the lack of cognitive skills, the lack of critical thinking, like I said, the emotionalism, the completely and totally unself-aware sense of moral outrage and self-righteousness, the hypocrisy, the refusal to face the realities of your culture and your belief system, your due process, your evidentiary standards, your right to privacy, your innocent until proven guilty, and so forth. Your age of consent. Because the truth of the matter is that as a society, you're not at all agreed about the age of consent. Not at all. So people in Epstein's circle most likely would have overlooked his conviction in 2008 because, let's be honest, they did not agree that what he did was morally wrong. That's why they overlooked it. It was just technically wrong, not morally wrong, technically wrong, like speeding or drinking and driving or doing illegal drugs that everyone else does also in the country anyway. Do you understand? They see it as illegal, but not necessarily as immoral, because they see every situation like that as on a case-by-case basis, just like speeding or just like drugs or driving drunk. See? They know that a 14 or a 15-year-old is legally a minor, but they don't feel that they're children, or they don't feel that they're too young, or what have you. This is how they feel. And this is something that you do not want to acknowledge. You don't want to acknowledge that, even though your whole culture literally blares this ambiguity or this dubiousness about age of consent across the entirety of your social media. You remember Dave Chappelle did that bit about R. Kelly, where he said, how old is 15 really? Because you are undecided as a society. Even legally, you're undecided. Everyone says it's 18, but it's only 18 in like a dozen states out of 50. Most states say 16. Do you know that in 1900 in Florida, the age of consent was 10? So it changes from state to state, from year to year, and it changes in terms of the specific circumstances. So like, for example, in Florida, someone who's under the age of 18 can have sex with someone who's over the age of 18, but under the age of 24, that's not a crime. But if they're over the age of 24, then it is a crime. You understand? In Florida, before 2016, a 16-year-old could marry, regardless of the spouse's age, if her parents agreed, or his parents agreed. Now it's 17, I think. Now it's 17 with parental approval. In Massachusetts, girls as young as 12 can marry, again, regardless of the age of the husband. You have 4 states in America that don't even have a minimum age for marriage. So you are undecided. morally and legally about this. Not to mention, 1 in 5 girls in the United States have already become sexually active by their 15th birthday. And roughly 75% of your girls are sexually active between the ages of 15 and 17. So in other words, most of the girls in your society are already sexually active when they are still legal children. And that's legal. That's perfectly legal, as long as their partner is not over 18 or over 24 in Florida. Meaning, if they're doing it with other legal children, it's fine. If minors and minors are doing it, it's fine. Both legally and we can assume morally as well in your society. Anyway, with moral societal approval. Since we're talking about 3/4 of your girls, clearly you approve. 3/4 is almost all. So you see, you haven't figured it out as a society, as a culture, when it's actually acceptable or not acceptable, at what age it is or is not acceptable. That's the truth. You got 21% of American girls being sexually active before the age of 15, and another 53% by the age of 17. And then the majority of them have their first sexual experience with a partner who is between 1 to 3 years older than them. So you can do the math. So yes, the people in Epstein's circle would very likely see his conviction as similar to a drunk driving conviction or something of that nature. You understand? They wouldn't see it as anything monstrous. Because the fact of the matter is that the overwhelming majority of your girls in your society, in America, the overwhelming majority of your girls are having sex by the age of the girl in his case, which was 16. And that girl stayed with him for close to 3 years until she got married in Thailand, this Virginia Giuffre. And then the same pattern that was with her gets repeated with other girls around the same age range. You know, Giuffre's connection with Epstein seems to have been the longest. Everyone else seems to have been more short term. But the point is, I'm saying that your whole society actually does not take this issue seriously. They don't take it seriously at all. Or anyway, they don't take it seriously enough to be decisive about it, to have some kind of consensus about it. Your stance on this issue is completely contradictory. It's inconsistent and it's incoherent. The truth be told, you see it as a technical crime. It's a technical crime, but it's one that gets violated en masse every day. And you will not address this. You'll never address this, because the truth is, you like to do what you like to do, but you like to posture as if you disapprove of what you yourselves are doing. You just don't admit it. And you will also not address the very obvious reality that your girls, again, in your society, in America, your girls, the overwhelming majority of your girls are, number 1, sexually active as legal minors, and number 2, choose to do so. So 75% of your girls are having sex outside of marriage as minors, and they're doing so with agency. They're doing so by choice. But you want to pretend that they are innocent. You want to pretend that they're untouched, inexperienced children, depending upon the age of the man that they're doing it with. As if a 15-year-old girl and a 15-year-old boy having sexual intercourse is like kids in a sandbox playing doctor. It's just sweet and quaint and harmless, right? You understand? Your children, including your girls, are first exposed to pornography between the ages of 9 and 12 years old. So by the time they're 15, they've likely been consuming that sort of content for years already. I said it before, your whole society is a grooming gang. Wallahi, your whole society is a grooming gang. You marinate them. You marinate your children in adult sexual content, in adult sexual themes and imagery and so forth from prepubescence. So by the time they're in their mid-teens, they're already sexually active in their mid-teens, even experienced by that time. While at the same time, your posture about them having some sort of childhood innocence at that age, when it suits you. Even though the truth of the matter is that your whole culture has been aggressively eroding that innocence when their age was still in the single digits. The point is, there are a massive number of issues. There's a massive number of genuine issues, societal issues, cultural issues, intellectual issues that the Epstein situation highlights. And you're not addressing any of them. You're not addressing a single one of them. Instead, you're going off the rails with your demonic, satanic fantasy scenarios. Going off the deep end, like a crazy mob on LSD, trying to inflate and conflate and exaggerate and incriminate and assassinate the characters of as many people as you possibly can. In a typical, as I said, scorched earth, shoot first, ask questions later, histrionic frenzy. I mean, you people could literally read a message, see an email from Epstein that says, my car broke down, and you would say that saying my car broke down is code for we're going to slaughter the babies at midnight. You've lost your minds. Honestly, you've lost your minds. You need to check yourself.